All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight, presented by FanDuel here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. This video is just going to focus on the Warriors. Don't forget we have that breakdown of Luka's 60-20-10 game and Anthony Edwards-Zion battle from last night. That's on our feeds from earlier today. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to The Volume's YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss any show announcements. And then last but not least, if for whatever reason you guys miss one of these videos and you can't get back over to YouTube, you can find them wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. So the Warriors, an impressive come-from-behind win against the Jazz last night for their third straight win, finishing up at 112-107 at home against Utah. What I'm going to do, because there's a couple of specific things that I want to talk about with specific players, but I think the easiest way for me to do that is to go through the comeback on a play-by-play type of basis, kind of dive into each guy as we go along. So we're going to zoom in on the Warriors trailing 101-97 in the fourth quarter. So Jonathan Kuminga ends up making a great rotation on Jared Vanderbilt at the rim and forces a stop. The Warriors run out, and Anthony Lamb leads the break, drops it off to Jerome. He makes a couple shot fakes and makes a layup. And then on the other end, Lauri Markkanen misses a three. They go to Jonathan Kuminga on the post on the right block, and he ends up drawing a foul on a post up and making both free throws to tie the game at 101. So first of all, Jonathan Kuminga has been a nice little release valve over the course of the last few games, particularly in the post, for a team that's needed shot creation, obviously with Steph Curry being out, which is exciting, obviously, for his individual development, but most importantly, they just need options right now as they're trying to float this particular stretch. And Jonathan Kuminga has scored on a post-up to the tune of 2 points in each of the last 3 games. So, and I don't think he had done scored out of the post at all in the previous 5 or 6 games. Overall in the season, with his recent success, he's elevated himself to 31 points on 34 post-ups total, which is 0.91 points per possession, which really is not bad for a player his age, especially since you have to factor in that that's been much better as of late. So it was 101-101, and Jordan Clarkson runs a pick and roll with Jared Vanderbilt. And Kevon Looney comes up to the level of the screen, so Jared Vanderbilt ends up getting behind him on the roll to the basket. And Jerome is in the weak side corner. And because Looney's up at the level of the screen, Jared Vanderbilt is rolling behind Looney to the rim. And what Jerome does is he fakes like he's going to tag the roller and then comes out back to the shooter. And it completely fools D'Angelo Russell. He throws the skip pass to the corner and Jerome just picks it off, takes it down the length of the floor, and shoots a transition pull-up three. Sticks it to put them up 104-101. I thought it was the play of the game last night that kind of changed the momentum. Obviously, it was a tie game at that point, but that was the play that really, you could tell the crowd was in it at that point, and you could tell that the team really believed they could win at that point. After that really nice game against the Grizzlies the other night, Jerome followed that up last night with 17 points on 50% shooting, and he grabbed 7 rebounds. He's playing some good ball. Again, they just needed some ball handling, and Jerome stepped up. He's plus 27 in his minutes during this 3-game winning streak. So it's 104-101. Lauri Markkanen misses a wide-open corner three. The Warriors go down, and Donte DiVincenzo runs pick and roll with Kevon Looney. Kelly Olynyk is guarding Kevon Looney, and he's in drop, so he's way back. Lauri Markkanen is guarding Donte DiVincenzo on the ball, and he goes under the screen. Donte DiVincenzo just dribbles over the top of the screen and just sticks a pull-up three. He's had 3 17-plus point games since the Steph Curry injury. Again, like I said before with Jerome, they needed somebody to step up on offense, and those 2 guys in particular, Donte and Ty, have done some really nice work during this stretch without Steph. So it's 107-101 at that point, and we're going to fast forward a few possessions. Now it's 107-103 with 2.5 minutes left. So Mike Conley runs a staggered pick and roll with a guard at the front and then a big at the end. And Jordan Poole and Donte DiVincenzo switch the first screen, but right as he's about to go off the second screen, Mike Conley rejects it and just completely dusts everybody. Now he's heading downhill. So he's going downhill with Jared Vanderbilt coming out of the dunker spot 2-on-1 with only Draymond Green there. And Draymond Green steps up, forces Mike Conley to throw the drop-off pass. Then Draymond turns and just on a drop step rises up and blocks Jared Vanderbilt at the rim. Then they go down the other end, and the Warriors miss a couple shots at the rim. They miss a couple offensive rebound putbacks. I think Jordan Poole missed like a floater, and then Draymond missed a putback, and then Jonathan Kuminga missed a putback. Then Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk run a pick and roll on the other end of the floor, and Kuminga and Jerome switch. Jerome switches out onto Markkanen. Markkanen just quick spins, like a really nasty spin move to get downhill. Again, dusts everybody, and he's just going right down towards the rim. All there is Draymond Green and Jared Vanderbilt in the dunker spot. Except for this time, Lauri Markkanen is scared to throw the drop-off pass because he just saw Draymond erase that shot at the rim. So instead, he tries to score over Draymond. Draymond contests it beautifully, forces him to double pump, and he misses the layup. Again, it was 107 to 103. Those 2-on-1 downhill pick and roll possessions are a bucket for every single other defensive player in the league, except for maybe 3 or 4. It's like Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Draymond Green. That would have tied the game, those 2 possessions. But Draymond just erased those possessions with just ridiculous defensive plays around the rim. A couple possessions later, Jordan Clarkson hits a super tough step back 3, so it's 107 to 106. Then Jordan Poole gets into the mix with a nasty crossover driving layup on Mike Conley to put them up 109-106. He's averaging 28 points since Steph went down. He hasn't been super efficient, but he's been getting to the line a lot. He's attempting 8 free throws a game during that span. Again, I'm not a huge fan of I like guys that can draw fouls. Obviously, I complain about that a lot on this show. I do think there's a difference between grifting and getting players out of position to draw fouls. And I don't get the vibe from Jordan Poole that he's grifting. So let's just call them 8 honorable free throw attempts per game. But most importantly, with free throw attempts, it allows you to set your defense. Because on those possessions, you're resting, everyone's back. You're much more likely to get a stop in that specific static situation. So even though Jordan Poole hasn't been super efficient, I think when you factor in the free throw attempts, it actually kind of evens out to some pretty productive 28 point per game scoring from Jordan Poole. So Mike Conley goes down and he misses a floater. And Kelly Olynyk gets an offensive rebound, rises up to take a hook shot, and Draymond Green, off of a straight vert with no momentum, rises up and blocks Kelly Olynyk's hook shot. The Warriors allowed just 6 points over the last 7.5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And all I can say here is do not take Draymond Green for granted. And I'm not sure why he's so polarizing, even among Warriors fans. I think a lot of people really struggle with his box score numbers. If it's surface level type of stuff. Like he was only 2 for 7 from the field from 2 for 7 from the field last night. I can get why that's discouraging in some ways. I actually think Draymond Green's a good offensive player if you factor in the fact that he's one of the better short roll passers in the league. So when Steph is drawing traps or when Jordan Poole is drawing traps, he's so good at making the right reads, barreling down the lane. He's also just a great passer in general with a live dribble in the open floor. So the Warriors get a lot of good stuff in fast break because Draymond can rise up and grab a rebound and start the break by himself to find open shooters. And then most of his spacing concerns by his inability to shoot, or he's been knocking down some shots lately, but most of his spacing concerns are mitigated by him just quickly going into dribble handoffs, like we've talked about so much on the show that the Warriors do with Looney and Draymond to get open shots. So, I actually think Draymond's pretty good offensively, but regardless, he's polarizing for some reason. And I think one of the big reasons why is I think people don't really quite see the defensive value to the extent that it really is. And I think that's sad because I think he's one of the best defensive players of all time. And, when we look at this Warriors era, like Steph is the ultimate foundational piece. That goes without saying. I think he might be the best offensive player ever. Like the guys who are above him all time are all monsters on the defensive end, but he might be the best offensive player ever. He makes everything work on that end of the floor. Steph Curry is the ultimate foundational piece of this dynasty. But what is the second biggest foundational piece of this dynasty? I think it's Draymond Green and what he can do on the defensive end of the floor. He is their defensive ceiling. His ability to protect the rim, what he does as a captain of the defense in terms of communicating and organizing guys. Obviously he's loud, he's talking through coverages, can snuff out plays before, he can see plays before they're happening, that kind of thing. And then also what he can do switching onto the perimeter to guard wings and guards, like what he did to Jaylen Brown in the finals last year. All of that makes him, especially with him being only 6'6", he's kind of one of the great anomalies in NBA history. But what he does on the defensive end of the floor is the second most important foundational piece of this entire dynasty. It doesn't take away from Steph's greatness. No one wins championships by themselves. But make no mistake, there is no Warriors dynasty without Draymond Green. I just wanted to, I thought he was so incredible defensively down the stretch of that game. They probably lose that game if anybody other than Draymond Green is out there defensively in that fourth quarter. But this 3-game win streak means the Warriors are now 4-3 since the Steph injury. So they're above 500. Their upcoming schedule: Portland at home, Atlanta at home, Detroit at home, Orlando at home, the Phoenix Suns without Devin Booker at home. Those are all winnable games. 4-1 is on the table for that stretch. And then they go on the road, but it's on the road for San Antonio, Chicago, and Washington. Those are all winnable games. Now then things get really tough, and they go into a pretty crazy stretch of their schedule, but that doesn't start till January 19th, and Steph Curry should be back at that point because he did say he's going to start getting back onto the court probably January 1st, which is Sunday? So, he's going to maybe take a week or two to get his conditioning, but he should be back out on the floor at that point. So, all things considered, this really couldn't have gone much better for the Warriors under the circumstances. This stretch without Steph is probably going to end several games above 500. That's crazy. They're going to gain ground, considering the fact that they were below 500 when the injury actually took place on that night against Indiana. My theory is, as we talked about, so many of the Warriors' problems this year, there's some depth stuff with the bench, but they really solved that to a good extent. Not completely solved, but they remedied that problem to a good extent by staggering their starters with their bench better. So, I believe that a good portion of their issues was a lack of urgency. And a blessing in disguise with the Steph injury is it seems to have triggered that urgency because their night in, night out commitment to the work has been much better. And they're actually playing some pretty damn good basketball without Steph right now. They are one of the most talented teams in the league. Do I think they're as talented as Boston? Probably not. Do I think they're as talented as the Clippers are top to bottom? Probably not. But they're right up there. And they just weren't playing hard enough, consistently enough, especially on the road for the first chunk of this season. But there is a lot of talent there, and you're seeing that with them winning some games without Steph now. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. We'll be right back tomorrow. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys then.